Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna be dropping a review slash overview of Batgirl Returns. This is the omnibus written by Gail Simone. This is $100 cover price, and it's about 960 pages, I believe. In the description down below, I'm gonna show page count, price, and so forth. So right now, let's just check the dust jacket, front cover, back cover, etc. Okay, so here's the front cover with the new DC logo they're using nowadays. Writer Gail Simone, and here are the artists: Ardian Syaf, Fernando Pasaria, Vicente Cifuentes, and Jonathan Clapton. So we got 4 artists on this. Here's the spine, writer Gail Simone, and here's the back cover. Now here says cover price $100, and it covers issues 0 through 34 of the new Batgirl being called Batgirl Returns. Then it also covers Valentines Day Special number 1, Batgirl Annual 1 and 2, Batgirl The Dark Knight, issue 23.1, and Batgirl Futures End. I really like that these books are the New 52. See, it says right here, New 52. So all the New 52 run, every omnibus they've made so far includes the Futures End issues of that particular character and so forth. That's something I really enjoyed, that they included those. Those were some pretty cool comics with like these 3D type of covers on the single issues. Here are the inner flaps on the inside of the dust jacket. Greenish right here. So see, you would basically open it this way. Let's check out the other side. Right there. Get a better look at it. Here is the book and the cover without the dust jacket. I really like this cover of Batgirl. This thing looks badass, and she's removing the cowl, aka her mask. So you can see her face right here. The artwork is really good right here. And on this side of the book, it's almost like the Batcave. Like you got some darkness going on, and what looks almost like there's bats in the background, but you can't quite make them out. I think they're bats. Look, there's one there, one there. That's kind of what they look like to me. I'm not 100% sure, but it's done real nicely. I really enjoy it. And here it says Batgirl Returns Omnibus. So this is the New 52 run. The New 52 was an era where they kind of started all the comic books at DC back at issue 1. So great jumping on point, right? Great time to start your collection from issue 1 and so forth. Look, you want this hole right here. And let's see the spine right there. When it lays flat, you want this to lay as flat as possible. You see this hole here in the middle? You want to have as less of it as possible. Here you get some, not too much, but there is a little bit of gutter loss right there. You don't want any of this if possible, because it will affect the art slightly, not too much, but it will affect it some. Okay, so here goes a 2-page spread. You see here, look at this. You do get some gutter loss there. You can't finish reading this right there, and the door as well. This is early on in the book, but yeah, it's not too bad. It doesn't completely affect the art too much, and it definitely doesn't affect the reading, right? So that's the most important part. You want it to not affect the like word bubbles like this. You don't want those in the middle right here, because then you can't read what they're saying, right? So it slightly affects the art. Not a deal breaker in my opinion, but for some of you it might be. I mean, if you were to buy this in a trade paperback where they're glued, I'm pretty sure you're gonna get similar gutter loss like this, right? The only way you're not gonna get that is if you buy the actual singles, or if you read it digitally. Alright, so here we got the inner cover. Again, we're going with this Batcave theme. And now that I look at it here, this definitely does look like bats here. It's almost like a painted look. Very eerie and interesting, and it definitely gives me a Batman vibe. So once we go to the next page, it says here, Batgirl Returns Omnibus. Here it says Batgirl, it says all the artists and so forth that are in the book. The content. No, it doesn't even show the content. It just says the artists that are in it. And the writers. Then here, okay, so right here it tells you 3 years after a savage attack that nearly ended her life, the brilliant Barbara Gordon returns to the streets as both survivor and avenger. So here it explains to you what happened before this. So Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, had been shot. She's been in a wheelchair for a few years in the comic books. Someone else is Batgirl. There's been like a revolving door of different girls playing Batgirl. So there's always been a Batgirl, just hasn't been her. So, and they all wear slightly different costumes of Batgirl. So now the OG has been kind of guiding them, right? She's been like their coach, if you will. She was in a wheelchair and really good with computers and with technology, and telling them where the next crime's happening and whatnot, right? Helping them in other ways. And this writer, Gail Simone, decided I'm bringing her back. She's gonna, we're bringing back the original Batgirl, and these other Batgirls, they're gonna have to change their superhero name, right? So I thought that was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that, and you could start reading the book from here, and kind of they'll have flashbacks and so forth. They will reference old stories and how she got shot and all that stuff, right? So you never feel lost. You feel like you're caught up as you're reading the stories. It's explaining to you the past of how we got to this point as well, right? So here, this is called the New 52 era of DC, where all their books restarted at number 1. So it's a great time to start collecting the series because you're at the beginning, right, at issue 1, and they reference the past enough so that you know what happened before, and it does pay homage to continuity, so that what you read before still counts. It's still somewhat affected, but you can also start here without reading it, which I thought that was like a brilliant idea, right? So let's go check some more of the extras real quick. Okay, bookends here, and as you can see, look, there's a bunch of other Batgirls, 1, 2, 3, and so forth. I have not finished this whole book. I'm about like 80% done with it, so I haven't got to this last part, and I haven't seen these extras. So these are the extras. It says Batgirl cover gallery. So here you get some of the covers. These are like variant covers. You get a lot of different takes, different artists. Really like this one. This one looks nice. That one looks pretty cool too, like a throwback to the old school Golden Age comics, but more modernized, obviously. And then we get some sketches here, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, we get this much pages and bonus material. So it's a nice amount, but you do gotta remember the pages on this book are pretty thick. They're pretty sturdy, but they're not too thick to the point where they stay up like that and it's annoying. They're a good size. All right, let's get to the stories a little bit. Here, you see Batgirl just coming back. I like this panel here. She's flying around kind of like how Spider-Man does and so forth. The artwork is real nice. I enjoyed it. Like the coloring. I didn't like the way this artist, who's the artist here? Ardian, Syaf, penciler. So I didn't like the way he drew Barbara Gordon, meaning Batgirl, but when she doesn't have the mask, I didn't like the way she looked. She didn't look the way I envisioned Barbara Gordon. I mean, I grew up watching those Batman cartoons, and the way Bruce Trim drew Barbara Gordon is just intended as in my head. Like that's what I envisioned, something close to that style, right? So I think a lot of us, that's what we picture in our head. So that's just my own fault, a victim of growing up with one thing, and that's kind of like what you got used to. So anyways, that's not the artist's fault. We all just have preferences as far as styles. So yeah, the artwork itself, I mean, look at it right here. You see these guys in shock, terrified by this guy here, this criminal. So you can see the artwork is clearly, it's good artwork. This guy's talented. And Barbara Gordon's starting. She's back as Batgirl. She's starting off small with regular low-level crime and so forth. And what Gail Simone did here is we see her being unsure of herself. Like she's rusty. She's like an athlete that's been retired 2 years or coming back from an injury. Or he's scared, like say a basketball player. He's scared to go for a dunk because he doesn't know how he's going to land, if he's going to get injured again, right? Or if he's going to freeze and not take the last second shot because he's rusty or whatever. So she very much is going through the same thing. She's going through like some PTSD kind of, right? And the writer did a good job of showing that, like acknowledging it, that she's been gone a while. And when she fights these characters, even though these are low level characters, she hasn't been around in a while. So to her, there's still a big threat. Can I still dodge a bullet? You know what I mean? Can I still throw down and take care of these goons? And she struggled a little bit, but she still got the job done. Now here you see her jumping in, bam, drops the first guy and so forth. And she kind of got back into the groove of things, and she's like, okay, I still got it. I could kind of still do this. First big bad in the first story arc. I believe a lot of these characters were like new characters that if you're reading this book, they're new characters because every character that shows up, we get their origin story, how they became a villain, why they're doing what they're doing, their sob story that we always get with these guys to make you somewhat feel for them, right? So we get the same here. So the fact that we're getting those origin stories makes me think they're new characters. I don't follow the DC continuity, so I could be wrong. Maybe these are existing characters, but they definitely came off as new characters to me, which was cool. We get to see these new villains being created at the at the ground floor, right? So that's always pretty cool. Now this guy is a little bit tougher. He's not your average criminal. He's a little bit more experienced, has a little he knows a little bit more what he's doing. He's a little bit more professional, right? And he's a big guy, so Batgirl's like, I can't just physically beat him up like I did with the other people, because this guy is also experienced and he's stronger, right? So this story, it was okay, but it was kind of by the numbers. So I was like, it's just a villain with a sad story. Then she beats him, saves the day, go to the next story, right? Next villain. So I was kind of a little bit worried about that. I was like, don't tell me it's just gonna be like this, because I thought it was okay. It's not something I want to read, 1,000 pages of a lot of those type of stories. But things change when we get to the second story. We start getting more development with the characters, more depth, more things start happening. They start tying into continuity, into other stories that are going on in other DC books, with Batman, with Batwoman, with other things, right? So that made it a lot more interesting. But here we did get introduced to this character, this detective, that will be on Batgirl's side, and she'll start kind of letting Batgirl know, now that you're back in the swing of things, you gotta know you can't trust every cop. A lot of cops are crooked. Unfortunately, I'm one of those cops that is legit, right? And a lot of cops are after her as well because she's legit. She's not for sale, if you will. Okay, here's the next story arc. Look at Batgirl getting slugged right here. Artwork's very energetic here. Look at the background when they do these lines to make it look more energetic and like more velocity, right? Like if a car was running fast, it gives the punch that effect, like she just swung really quick, right? Here's the villain. Now it's a woman. I like what we start getting more female villains. So that's good because our main character is a female. So when our main character is a female, you would like there to be the majority of her rogues gallery to be women, with the occasional guy here and there, right? Just like if you were reading Batman, you would want the majority of his characters to be men, with the occasional woman here and there, right? I think that just makes more sense because that's the audience you're catering to, right? This is more like more girls will probably pick this up, and the men will pick up Batman. Although collectors themselves, you're gonna pick up all the books because they all tie in, right? But your casual will pick up one or the other, right? So you're gonna, if it's meant for girls, you're gonna want girl villain characters. One thing I don't like is if you have a girl and most of her villains are men. I don't know. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, as far as to who you gotta know your audience basically. So yeah, here you start seeing the villains. Look at here. This one has like some type of superpower, right? So you start seeing the villains go up in scale from your common criminal that's robbing a liquor store. You go up a notch. Your next villain is kind of like a terrorist, right? So now it's like a bigger threat. And now your next one has some type of superpower. So you see that the villains evolve. She's fighting tougher and tougher criminals. And I really like that. And she's not just immediately destroying them. I hate when you bring in a new character and they got it from day one. They're the best, right? You gotta have the character develop and learn as they go, right? And here you didn't just start her against a top villain like a Joker. You have her gradually moving her way up and getting back into the groove of things, almost like if she was a new character. And right here, Gail Simone, they could take notes right here. Other writers, how you bring in a new character when you're trying to develop a new character, because she's doing a lot of new characters here. A lot of these villains, the cops that are helping her and so forth. She's developing these characters where they're not cookie cutter, they're not one-dimensional. They all have their own thing, and you're seeing them evolve. Like she has a game plan of what she's doing with them, right? Like when the beginning, how they start, you're like, okay, it's kind of just a basic character, and you see the character develop, get a background story, form either a friendship or with Batgirl or with Barbara Gordon, or form like a rivalry, right? Becomes a villain or whatever. Now let's talk a little bit about what's going on with Batgirl. I mean, with Barbara Gordon. Here we got Barbara Gordon, and who's this? It looks a lot like her. It's her mom. So her mom she divorced the dad. They haven't seen each other in a long time. And you get the story where her mom is trying to reconcile with her daughter, right? So you see her real life story going down the outside of the superhero stuff. She's has her mom, and then she has this little brother right here. So she starts reminiscing about the past, their family. Here they have the portrait, her brother, and then her parents. Back when they were a happy family, the little brother had issues. And I like what they did here, because now this next villain hits a little closer to home because she has a past with him. It's a family member, it's her brother. And he becomes one of her future villains which makes it a lot more intense and more interesting. I was like, wow, we managed to make this story, the next villain, be a part of Barbara Gordon's life. Not Batgirl's, but Barbara Gordon's. So shit got real right there. It felt a lot more, real and more personal with this villain. All right, now check out this artist. Unfortunately, I do not know the name of this artist because these book, the way DC did these, they don't have a page, and the beginning of each issue, it's a virgin cover, so it doesn't show you what issue it is, and they don't have a table of contents, so I wouldn't know what issue it is, what page, so I could know what artist is on this one, right? But this one was probably my favorite artist. I really like what he did here. Now the art style, that we know that can be subjective. We all have different tastes as far as art styles, but the way he moves the action, the way he moves the story, it was like a lot more sound in my opinion, or to my liking at least. And also the art style itself, I really enjoyed as well. Now look at here. You see Barbara Gordon's hand, and then you see her here slowly getting up, right? Look at the way they do from this panel to this panel. If you were reading this digitally, you would only see this picture, right? Then you would see this one, almost like a moving a motion comic, or you will click from there to there, then bam, this page. This page looks awesome. You see Batgirl here standing up, and then you feel like you know what she's feeling right here. Look at her bleeding and so forth. Just from looking at this panel where it's just her hand, that gives you the same feeling this would give you, right? These two pictures to me do the same exact thing, except here you're doing a lot more to do this to get the same emotion, right? So she's here, she's kind of struggling in this fight, right? We move over here. She's fighting this character, and this looks badass when the way this fighting is. I thought this artist is a lot better at the action scenes as well. At least I like them more, and they were still kind of somewhat grounded, right? We're still looking kind of dynamic. But I seen some other artists here. The way he was drawing, it was, I would say, more dynamic. But I like this style more. But like, for example, the other artist in one of these other issues, if he drew this panel with her punching her, with Batgirl punching her, this villain would be flying. When she throws that punch, the villain would be flying, because the other art was a lot more energetic, like I said, and more comic booky, more exaggerated, like a cartoon, right? So it just kind of depends what you're looking for. Neither is wrong. It's just two different techniques depending on what you like. And here we get a few artists, so you get a few different styles, and each art style definitely has its own feel. Although the tone of the writing and the stories always have the same feel because it's the same writer, the art styles always kind of give it a slight twist each time, right? So the book never gets stale or anything. Even look at here when she's punching the villain over here. Look, half her face is not colored; it's just in black. So you see it's dark shadows. Looks more gritty. It reminds you of the type of city we're living in. This is I believe she still operates in Gotham like Batman does. So it reminds you this city looks dark. It looks gritty. I felt like I was reading Batman, right? Because the city, the tone, everything was very similar. Although the character herself, her costume is similar, her personality is a lot different than Bruce Wayne. Now check out this story. Here we have Barbara Gordon, Batgirl. This story tells you how she became Batgirl. This is the first time she was Batgirl. This criminal escaped from jail there at the police precinct, and she's running away from him, right? Look at her running away. This guy slaps her around. She falls, but she has some type of training because of her dad is Commissioner Gordon, so she knows how to defend herself somewhat, right? Although she's not a professional yet. I trip out the way they drew the art. Look at her skirt here. I thought it was just me. I was like, eh. Then we get to this panel, and I was like, okay, it's not just me. We're definitely going for some cheesecake right here. You know, catering towards that male audience, even though this is kind of like catered towards women. Although I notice a lot of girls like this stuff too. They they like that girls to look sexy, and it's kind of like a form of empowerment and so forth. Like, yeah, you go, girl, make that skirt even shorter, right? So I trip out on that, but I'm not complaining. I like it, but it's not for everybody. Some people get offended by that stuff, like this type of art style, but it's definitely there in this story arc. Now look what she does here. She's running away from this guy. She finds this old Batman costume there in the police station. She throws it on, and this picture right here was so freaking badass to me. I was like, holy crap, like this is Batgirl donning on a Batman type costume for the first time. I was, holy shit, like this was real cool. I really like this. And she just lets this guy have it. Like she's beating the crap out of him. So you're like, all right, she knows how to take care of herself. And look at what happens here. When she's beating this guy up, Batman shows up right here. And he's like, you see him right here? He looks at her and he sees that she's wearing a costume that looks like his. And he just looks at her. So he knows she meant well. So he just looks at her and goes, you did this yourself? All right, good job. Now get out of here. Right? Like, so he's kind of impressed, but he doesn't want to encourage her to keep doing this, right? Putting herself in danger. But he doesn't even ask, like, who is it under the costume. So here it shows that over the years, he started trusting her. This was her early costumes. He started trusting her to roll with him and Robin. So that was pretty cool. You see, like, if you hadn't read Batgirl before, like me, that I haven't, I got a big idea just in this book. Her origin story, how she met Batman, and so on and so on. So, like I told you, this does a great job of just catching you up on stuff, right, with continuity. I really feel like I don't need to go back to read any of her other material. I don't feel lost or anything when I'm reading this. Now here it does get a little tricky because when you get to this issue, again, it doesn't show the issue numbers, but I believe this was 17. I'm not 100% sure. But when you get to this one, you got Catwoman and you got this character that's from the Court of Owls. Here you get this character's backstory. So I guess because this is a woman character, they threw her in on the Batgirl book. And in the Batman one, there's a guy that looks just like this, but it's a man, right? So you don't need to read the Batman stuff. But if you got the Batman Omnibus by Scott Snyder, you would read this at the same time as this one. Because both stories are happening at the same time. But one is Batgirl and the other one's Batman, right? So yeah, you would read that one and I'll show you where this character came from. Although here it shows you how she became that character and so forth. She's kind of a badass, and she's not necessarily a villain. She's kind of like she's like a lost soul, right? Like she kind of doesn't know what she's doing. She's been kind of manipulated. So there's hope for this character to maybe be a good guy down the road. I don't know. I don't follow Batgirl, so I don't know if she stayed a villain, and I don't necessarily follow. I read some 80s Batman and a little bit of 90s, but I've never read anything more modern than that, so I don't know where we're at with these stories, right? I don't know if this character is good, bad, or what. Although I am going to read more DC going forward. Now look at the art style here. Completely different art style. Some people would like this art style more than a lot of the other ones because it's like a painted look, more realistic. Look at that. Look at Gordon right here. And this is that character, the one that's from the Court of Owls. This is her origin story, right? She was just like this lost soul in jail, couldn't speak, all scarred up. And they took her in, manipulated her. You know, like when you see a runaway kid, sometimes people try to take advantage of them. Oh, you could come live with me. Then they have them selling drugs or prostituting them or whatever, right? So this is something similar they did with this character, but they use her as kind of like a hitman. Some more of the art right here. This is interesting art. It's felt a lot different than all the other art styles. This one felt more like I don't know. I wouldn't say necessarily a movie, but it definitely had a different vibe just because of the way the art style is. Okay, now in this story arc, shit got real interesting because here's Joker and here his mom has been kidnapped, just like she had been kidnapped a while back. So it's very reminiscent when you see this art panel. And to Batgirl as well, she brought back like a flashback, like, oh, this happened to me before, right? Joker did this to me at one point. So it's a nod back to continuity. And this is more Gail Simone's take of like what she would have done with the story. And she definitely fleshed out a previous old story that left a lot of questions with the previous writer. He had said, I left things open to interpretation because comics are half story and half you use your imagination and fill in the blanks. That's what separates us from movies and television, which I thought he had a really good explanation, and I like that. That way you leave those stories open for debate, so us nerds could argue over them forever, and no one's right and no one's wrong, right? Because they're open for interpretation, for your imagination to be where you wanted the story to be. So I like the way he explained that. But now here, Gail Simone went back on that story and made it a lot more clear what happened. She fleshed it out. She said, no, it's not open for interpretation. It's going to be very clear what went down on a previous story arc that's called The Killing Joke. If you read it, you read it. If you haven't, and you read this, go ahead and pick it up and then kind of just connect the dots yourself, right? I like both takes. I like both ideas. You want it fleshed out, or if you want to keep the other one open to be what you want it to be, right? So anyways, this definitely touches on that story. And then we get her brother here. Now that he's older, he's almost like a villain as well. But at the same time, he's not necessarily an Joker's side. He's against Joker as well, right? He doesn't work with him, but he's not on Batgirl's side either. So this story here gets real interesting where we get Batgirl, now we get her brother, her mom. We really flesh out the family and the supporting cast members, right? And we give you backstories with them, and things get real crazy. I don't want to talk any more about this book because if you guys read it, I think it's better if you go in fresh, not knowing what happens in the other stuff. But it gets real good. It gets real good. I've been really enjoying it. Look at here. I'm almost done with it. It's like up to here would be the end, and these are extras, right? So I'm pretty close to done. That's how much more I need. And yeah, it's been real fun. I don't want to give up anymore from what I have read, but things, the story, I really like where it was going. It gave a lot of background to not just Batgirl, but it gave a lot of background to Barbara Gordon and to the dad, right? To the dad and to the whole family. Things that in the Batman books, at least the ones I have read, really don't touch on Commissioner Gordon and his life too much, right? It's more about Batman and Bruce Wayne's life. Here, it's about Batgirl's life, and her life happens to be connected to Commissioner Gordon's because that's her dad, right? So it's connected to his life, and fleshing her out. We're kind of fleshing him out as well, which I kind of enjoyed. Solid read, solid read. I would recommend it. If you guys like this video, hopefully you hit that like button. Really helps out with the algorithm. If you read this, let me know in the comment section down below what you thought about it. And another quick question. Do you guys like me just to vaguely talk a little bit about it like that? Or would you like kind of like a little bit longer videos and we get more into spoilers? If you don't mind spoilers, let me know in the comment section down below. I try to vaguely just talk a little bit about the beginning of the book and the middle, but not give away anything too important, because I know some people want to go in fresh. So let me know in the comment section down below if that really matters to you or not. Other than that, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, man. That way I'll keep you updated on your feed when my next video drops. Other than that, I'd just like to thank you guys for taking some time out of the day, checking out the video, and I'll check you guys out next time.